1x Developer Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Colin.
I'm Brendan.
This is the 1x Developer Podcast. Today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about?
Talking about ghost devs.
Ghost devs, ghosts. We're ghost hunting today. Do you believe in the afterlife, Brendan?
I don't. I think once the electricity stops zip zapping and this flesh stops being animated, I think anything that is resembling anything that I would call me is gone after that.
Wow.
We're just diving right. What about you, Colin?
I don't think I believe in like ghosts, like I don't think there's spirits walking among us. I think there could maybe be an afterlife of some kind, like a heaven, a hell, that kind of stuff. But I've never believed in like paranormal stuff.
Yeah. I think it would be, I think that would change your view on a lot of things if you believe in paranormal stuff. Like you move into a new house, you got to wonder if it's haunted. I don't know. I think it would be a weird way, just a very different way to walk through the world than the way I do today.
Yeah. There's definitely some software bugs that I would probably just blame on ghosts.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about ghost devs. Devs that are ghosts.
Yeah. Do we have a way to share this graphic, or should we just talk about it?
Yeah, I can share my screen, I think.
This was research conducted at Stanford, it says. So
let me pull this over into that window. Do the video viewers see the image?
I think so.
Do you see it, Brendan?
I do. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is something that's been floating around my social media circles a little bit. Allegedly, some research done by Stanford. It claims that 9.5% of software engineers are ghosts. So not only do ghosts exist,
Turns
but
out we were wrong.
if you know 10 people, one of them's probably a ghost.
10 software developers.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Almost 10% of software developers are ghosts. Ghost being performance less than 0.1x median engineer. So, 1x developers here, we're smoking them.
Yeah.
We're better than 9.5% of engineers at least.
Yep.
Do virtually no work and might even work multiple jobs.
This number, this 9.5% is wild to me. I find that really, really hard to believe.
Yeah, 9.5. And I wonder, maybe I should try to find the original study, not just believe the infograph I saw on the internet. But yeah, 9.5. I mean, are we talking 9.5% globally? Is this 9.5% of all software engineers? That seems, way too high.
That just seems, yeah. I mean, software developers do leave behind these kind of like artifacts and trails of development, and some jobs more than others, like some either because of the type of job or the company culture or whatever, like some developers do more commits than others. That's just kind of the nature of the game. But a developer who doesn't, someone who is considered a software developer, is paid to be a software developer, and like is not making any code changes, is not releasing any code, is not producing any kind of output, that just seems crazy to me that nobody would at some point just be like, what do you do here?
Yeah.
You show up, you clock in supposedly, and like then you clock out, and like what do you do all day?
Yeah, we're talking about doing 1/10 the work of a median engineer and doing it says virtually no work. That's crazy. I mean, I definitely like obviously there are low performers, you know, there are people who don't commit a lot. There are people who spend a lot of time on tasks that probably shouldn't require as much time as they do. But yeah, I feel like you know, if I were a manager, if I was managing 10 people and one of them was doing basically nothing, I feel like I would know.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would do something about it.
And my, you know, all of my experience professionally has been on relatively small teams. I've never worked on like at a really big company with a really big team. You know, when you're talking about being a manager of 10 people, maybe that's reasonable, but I mean, at bigger companies, do you have situations where a manager is managing 50 people and people just like fall through the cracks?
I think so. I mean, well, yeah, definitely that happens. And I have actually met people who have told me straight up that they like working at big companies because they can just kind of blend into the wall and no one notices.
Hmm.
Uh, which is just insane because I feel like that's just like the opposite of what I want from a job. You know, I want to be
Right.
like, I want to feel like if I wasn't here, like somebody would notice
Yeah.
at least, you know. Um, that's you know where a lot of satisfaction comes from for me. Uh, but
I,
yeah, I mean, at larger companies, that definitely does happen. There's definitely bullshit jobs. There's definitely people who don't do stuff. Uh, it's the 9.5% figure that just sounds sus.
yeah. I think no, that's true. I'm with you. I would really I would find it hard to get out of bed in the morning if I really felt like I just show up and I don't do anything and then I go home. Um, man, that's not at all what I want out of a job, but I think a lot of people do. And I think a lot of people would really love to find a job where they just kind of showed up and didn't do anything all day. I really wonder though, like literally honestly, what are these people doing? Are they like dicking around on their phones? Are they I don't know. You got to be doing something. You're not just like staring at the wall, right?
Right. And I mean, so it mentions that last bullet point was might work multiple jobs. So that leads me to believe that these must be remote or at least hybrid people, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't work multiple jobs on site. So I mean, if it's remote, they could be doing anything. Just you know, they have Slack open and they respond to stuff. They respond to emails. They show up to meetings. Um, but I feel like even that would be hard. Do you ever like show up to stand up and you're like, man, I'm still working on this thing. People are gonna think uh, I I'm like not doing enough or something like that.
Oh,
Have you ever had that?
yes, all the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I mean I definitely have it less now, but like especially starting out, I would be like, man, I'm gonna go stand up and I'm gonna say that I uh, didn't have a super productive day yesterday, but it's like it's totally fine for you to say that. Like that's you know you can say that. Um, so I don't know. I mean, people who actually aren't doing any work, what do they say? Do they get nervous?
Yes. Yeah.
They must be nervous, right?
That hold on, that's a really funny point. I feel like that feeling of saying that I don't know, being a little self-conscious about like I'm not done with this thing and it's taking me longer than I expected. I feel like that's actually gotten worse for me uh the more I've gotten into my career. And maybe it's like at our company we kind of have a culture of you write it, you own it. And so I feel like the longer I've been in this position, the more maintenance stuff there is that you know, more tickets that roll in like belong to me, and there's just a lot of little stuff that I kind of own because I wrote it. um so yeah, I feel like as the years go by, I show up to more and more meetings where I'm like, man, I'm saying the same thing for a third week in a row.
You mean like just like because your standards have risen, like you expect yourself to be more productive than you used to be?
Well, That might be part of it. I mean, maybe I'm expecting too much of myself, but I just mean I feel like there's more small day-to-day BS stuff that takes up my time and takes me away from bigger projects.
Okay.
So it's like I'm yet again saying, I don't know, man, I'm still working on this project, but a lot of it's just because I get taken away from the big project by a lot of day-to-day stuff, because the more code you write, the more code is yours to maintain.
Right. Yeah, that definitely happens. Like as you kind of grow into not necessarily like a leadership position, but like viewed as like a leader in the team, like people will bug you with more stuff. You know, yeah, more stuff you touch, more stuff you become an expert in, more people need stuff, more stuff from you. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Um, but for me at least, I think I've just gotten more comfortable with like, no, I know I'm doing stuff. I'm not really worried about getting in trouble. It's fine for me to say like, yeah, yesterday I was helping this person with this thing and I got stuck with this thing, and yeah, hopefully today I'm gonna do the thing that I said I was gonna do 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if we think about it that much, how much does a ghost dev think about this? You know, especially if they have multiple jobs. Can you imagine doing 2 stand-ups?
No, that's the thing, is it has to be you. I have trouble imagining, like doing that little work at one job. You have to kind of find 2 jobs that are very hands off and very
Yeah,
light on requirements, and both you have the skill set for. It just seems like, I mean, that seems hard to find to me, to find 2
yeah.
jobs like that.
I'd like to kind of uh, delve into the multiple jobs thing, because that's something I've heard about. Like I've kind of heard like little whispers in the wind about like people who have done this, right?
Hmm.
Like I've seen people post about it online and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had jobs where maybe I could have also had another full time. Like I've been in places in my life where maybe I could have done it. But yeah, I mean, really, you need to find 2 really laid back remote positions. Uh, though I think the really hard part is you got to try to have the schedules not overlap too much, right? Because like even if you work at a company where there isn't a lot of meetings, I mean, I still have days where I've got like 3 or 4 meetings in a day.
Hmm.
So I guess you could miss some at one of your jobs. I don't know. And I feel like I would be like mixing stuff up between the 2 of them.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's true.
you'd have to have 2 separate machines, right? Like you can't do company work on your personal machine. I don't know. Uh, yeah, it seems really hard.
I think that would be, and man, if you're at all worried about like getting fired from either job, I think that would be really stressful. Maybe you just don't
Yeah.
care. Maybe that's the key, is like, I don't care about either of these
Yeah.
jobs.
So I think part of it is part of the mentality is like, okay, if you think like, let's say I'm 40 and I'm planning on retiring when I'm 65. So if I work one job, I got to work 25 years. But if I work 2 jobs, then I got to work really less than half because I'm probably investing a lot of that, right? So let's say like a little bit less than 10 years. It's still a long time to
Yeah.
keep that up.
Yeah. Uh,
I think that's the idea is like, okay, if I can have 2 jobs, I don't have to do it forever. I only got to do it for a little bit. And if I do get caught, I go back to just having one job for a while. And then, I'll be rich by the time I'm within 10 years, or I should be like pretty wealthy.
yeah.
I think that's the idea. But yeah, it's just, I mean, let's just be clear. Like, neither one of us is recommending anybody do this. I mean,
Yes.
is that illegal? I feel like it's illegal. It's definitely unethical.
Okay.
I feel
So
like
that gets into
like,
time theft, right?
yeah, I mean, it is time theft. And I feel like I've signed things, probably not at every job, but I feel like at one job, I probably signed something that said I wouldn't do that. Like I've signed non-competes at most of my jobs, at least.
Yeah. Well, so that's part of it. It couldn't be in the same industry. I think that the most of the things that I've signed at my jobs, apart from being non-compete, like you can't work for a competitor, have been related to you are allowed to work another job, you're allowed to moonlight as long as it doesn't interfere with this job.
Right.
So and it basically gives the company the ability to fire you if they find out that you're like working a night shift somewhere and you're staying up all hours and then like showing up, exhausted and you can't do your job or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's kind of the situation they have in mind. So I don't think it's illegal. I think it's just I think the company has a right to fire you if they find out, because presumably you're not giving them the 40 hours a week that you are saying that they're paying you for.
I definitely think you could end up in some trouble. Like I know some companies they have that clause that's like basically it says like all the code you write on the clock with us belongs to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're writing code on the clock with them and you're giving that code to a different company, that I feel like there's legal issues there.
That's a good point.
Potentially. Yeah. Anyway, it's all just to say like there's no way this is worth it, right? To do
Yeah.
like all that headache. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that pays off in the end.
I agree. I've same as you. I've kind of heard whispers, like I've heard friends of friends of friends doing this. Do you remember that story from? This is like a lot of years ago, and it was much more novel back then. But the guy outsourced his own job, so he would show up to work, and he like was paying somebody else a very small amount to do all his work, and he did that for like 3 years or whatever before he got fired.
Yeah. I've also read, like, I remember reading a post once about a guy who like he got kind of like an Excel job, whatever, and but he knew how to code, and he basically just like wrote a script that did his whole job in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so he would like log in, run his script, and then like play video games or whatever. Which really is, I mean, you should try to find other things valuable to do, but at least that's a far cry from like, what that other guy was doing that you were talking about.
Yeah. And okay, that's a really good point too. Is like we did an episode on the engineering mindset and just this like curiosity, and I have had jobs where I did very little work. This is like probably before I got into a programming career, but I have had jobs like that, like in Excel jobs that my work did not take 40 hours. And what I did with that time was like learn programming and learn other stuff. But like part of that was programming. I'm always a little confused why people aren't doing that at work when they're not working. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Why aren't you using that time to improve your skill set or like learn a new framework or a new technology or something? That seems like the best use of that time.
Yeah, especially like, every company I've ever worked at has had a backlog that was just enormous, right? Like there's stuff you can find to do in software, at least. There's plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah. No shortage of things to learn about or help with.
So let's do this. What percentage do you think is accurate of ghost devs there are out there?
3%.
3%. That's a good guess. I was gonna say 1%. I think 1 out of 100 that I could see that. 3 out of 100 I could see too. 9.5 just feels so high.
Yeah, 1 out of every 10 software developers, roughly. That seems crazy high to me. I mean, the fact that this study was done at all and found results and stuff, these jobs must be out there. And I think that part of it is I haven't really like actively looked for a job in quite a while. I think the job market is very different than what I think it is. I hear these other stories from the other side where like companies will post jobs that don't exist and all this kind of stuff. People will have someone else apply for the job and then the company hires them and it's not the person that did the interview and like all these crazy stories. I feel like the job market and jobs in general I'm kind of out of the loop on.
Yeah,
It's a weird world.
yeah, yeah. It's hard to say like without your sample size is only like yourself and what you've done.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I found this post. I guess this is the source of that original. Yeah, this is the guy, Yegor Denisov Blanche, uh, Stanford University. I should have shouted him out when I read the thing. Um, Here, let me unshare this. I feel like there's like even more interesting stuff in here. So first of all, he says we have data on the performance of greater than 50,000 engineers from hundreds of companies.
Wow.
Right. So my initial thing was like, okay, did you ask like one company that with just a really messed up culture or what? But no, so it sounds like a good sample size. Um, this is how you measured it. Okay. This stuck out to me. We found that 14% of software engineers working remotely do almost no work, compared to 9% in hybrid roles and 6% in the office.
Oh, wow. So it's even higher with remote, and then the averages kind of even out with people who are coming into the office and doing nothing.
6% coming into the office and doing virtually nothing. That's crazy. I mean, I expected remote to be higher, because I mean, that's how you get away with doing nothing. Um, that seems nuts. 6% of people in office doing no work.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that.
that
Like, what
seems
do you even do all day?
right. What are you doing at work that that maybe looks like work but isn't work? You know what I mean? You can't just sit on your phone, right? Maybe
Yeah.
I guess you can
Yeah.
watch YouTube.
I'm sure you can in some offices.
You
Okay,
can
so this guy
watch the
says,
1X Developer podcast on YouTube.
yeah, on average, engineers working from the office perform better, but 5x engineers are more common remotely.
Hmm.
So remote workers are you get your spectrum of like ghosts and what's like the opposite of a ghost?
Um,
Like
yeah, I don't.
exorcists?
Yeah. Material beings. Yeah, I don't know.
No. Uh, right, okay. Well, this is a flawed way to measure productivity. It reveals inactivity. 58% make less than 3 commits per month.
See,
No
that's
way.
wild. Like,
No way.
what kind of manager doesn't notice if someone on their team is making less than 3 commits a month? That seems, I don't know. That seems hard for me to
There's no
imagine.
way. The other 42% make trivial changes like editing one line or character pretending to work. Um, that's understandable. I could see how people could do that and get away with it.
But what is that though? Like, nobody on the team is looking at your commits. They're just like looking that you made a commit, and they aren't looking at the content of it at all.
Yeah, like
Nobody
you
is.
didn't. Yeah, I mean, I would assume you have a ticket assigned to you, and then your PR is associated with that ticket. So somebody should be verifying that that code you did solves the ticket. And I mean, unless every ticket you work on is like changing the title of a header,
Yeah.
I don't know. This seems. I just like I I'm seeing the facts, and my there's like a limit to like this just goes so against what I see in front of me that it's like it's really hard to believe.
Yeah. But it is interesting. Okay, so looking at that table right there, you know, and maybe everyone he surveyed in the study, these are all massive companies. These are all
Yes,
huge,
these
huge
are
companies.
huge.
And so, yeah, I think we said that earlier. Like, I really think there's a difference between a big company and a small company where I think it would be really hard to get away with being a ghost dev on a team of 10, 15, 20, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, estimated ghost engineers, 17,000 ghost engineers at IBM out of
Yeah.
180,000. But, I really don't even have, I can't even wrap my head around 180,000 engineers. That seems,
But I mean, like assuming they're evenly distributed, that still means like about every team has one,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe okay. I mean, there could be that there's like a few teams that are just all ghost devs. Like I have worked in jobs where my whole team, my whole department did something that didn't really matter, and we didn't really have direction on what we were doing.
Hmm.
So maybe there's that. Um,
Okay, so this is like, not only do you not care as the ghost dev, but your manager doesn't care because their manager doesn't
well,
care.
and if you don't care, like you're not really gonna care much, right? Like if there's just no work coming in, you can try to fight for. I've been in positions where I've had to fight for work, and it sucks to do. Like it's hard to like go uphill to like get things to do to work, you know.
Yeah.
But okay, let me also take a step back. Okay, so the metrics he was looking at was commits. Like there are people that are in like their title is developer, but they don't really write code, right?
Hmm.
Like there are people who do that. Um, so that could be some of this, right? Like they're a software developer, but really they do a lot of working with vendors. They do a lot of like wrangling the different offshore people, gathering requirements, that sort of stuff. Maybe there's some of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think commits is not the end all be all, but surely those people who aren't writing code would still be creating some kind of artifacts for their work. I would think Jira updates or like, I mean, some kind of reports that they're reporting to somebody regularly, right?
yeah, I just don't know if that's being captured in this research right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, just playing devil's advocate basically at this point. Um, but I mean, then we get into this, right? Conservatively assuming just 6.5% of engineers worldwide are unproductive instead of 9.5%. I don't know where he picked that number, but that's $90 billion effectively wasted. $90 billion, is that like, let me pull up like countries by GDP. What's like 90 billion GDP? Give me a uh estimate. Is this millions? Okay. So this is 100 million millions. So wait, what was it? 90 billion. 90 billion. So that would be like 900 million, right? Or
Hmm.
that would be 9,000 million. Wait, wait, what? 9,000 million would be 9 billion, right? So 90,000 millions is what I'm looking for.
Yes, 90,000 million.
Okay, I'm pretty sure
90,000
that's right.
million, 90
Yeah, yeah.
billion.
So
Yeah.
so like Uzbekistan in 2023 is like how much money was wasted on software engineers that just don't do anything.
Look at all those countries below
Or
that.
like
That's
Costa
crazy.
Rica.
Yeah, that's wild.
Tuvalu is the smallest one on here. Um, yeah, that's crazy, man. It's like we're talking about like a small country amount of money being wasted on people just not working. Um, that's nuts.
Do you think that, I don't know, do you think there are any incentives for companies like why do companies let this persist? Why do you think there are some kind of incentives like just having is headcount a metric that's important to people? Like I hear these stories sometimes about meetings where a manager will be like, well, I don't want to let anyone on my team go because then I won't get the same budget for next year or whatever, right? Things like that. So are there incentives for companies to just keep people on even though they know they're not doing any work?
I just can't imagine. I mean, man, I don't know. Like, no one wants to fire someone. I'll say that, right? Like,
Sure.
managers, even when like there's someone on their team that they know just isn't good at their job, like they don't want to fire someone. So there's a little bit of that, but still, it just seems like that's way too many. That's way too many. I don't even know what else to say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not wanting to fire someone. I totally get that. Be hesitant about it, but like, I would really think that even if a boss wasn't excited about firing someone, if they came to a ghost dev and they said, "Hey, we noticed you made 6 commits in the last 3 months. That's not enough. We need you to shape up," that the ghost dev would be like, "Oh, maybe I'll
Yeah.
quit my other job, or like maybe I'll shape up a little and like try to keep my job." I don't know, or not. Maybe
Yeah,
they
and
don't
I
care.
mean, I've never been in a position like this, but I believe that if I was, if I had that talk with a developer, right, and I said, "Hey, look, you're like not cutting it," and then things didn't change, I don't think I would feel guilty letting him go. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't like it, but come on, like if you're giving them the chance and you've communicated that this is an issue and nothing's changing, then yeah, uh, 3 commits a month, uh, without like doing anything else, like just doing virtually no work. I wouldn't feel bad letting you go. I don't think.
People talk a lot of crap about performance improvement plans and stuff like that, right? But
Yeah,
I think
tips.
that's, yeah, the old pips. But I think that's exactly part of it. I mean, part of it is legal. You're creating a paper trail, but part of it is just to maybe alleviate the guilt on the part of the manager. Be like, look, you gave them plenty of fair warning. It's not like you just showed up one day and said, "Hey, get out of here."
Probably, I think so. Yeah, and that's the big thing. Like, I think when people get fired and they just didn't see it coming at all, that's when it feels really nasty.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, if you articulated that there's a problem, um, then yeah. Um, you ever you ever browse Blind,
Mm-mm.
teamblind.com? Have you heard of Blind?
No.
I don't recommend making an account on Blind. But it's a social media site. It's kind of like Reddit or something, I guess. And you have to sign up with a work email, and it's anonymous. It's like all totally anonymous. That's like a big part of it. That's why it's called Blind. And I think it's supposed to be kind of just a place for people to so if you sign up with an IBM email, you'll be in like the IBM group, and you can like post in there, and people can see that you are verified as someone who works at IBM. I think it's supposed to be kind of a place for people to, go and like anonymously talk about things like, like the company has a big financial report that's terrible. It's a place where people can just kind of be like, "Hey, what's everybody think about this?" Um, the thing is, Blind is just it has the absolute worst user base out of any place I've been to, honestly. Like
Oh, really?
everyone, yeah, people are just so vicious, and like eh, people like it's mostly just people complaining about the company, like just any type of complaint you could think of. And specifically in the software engineering space, uh, you see tons of people, like tons of posts of people just like, yeah, I don't do anything at work. Looking for a place where I can make more. What do you guys do? Like people talk a lot about like gaming the leak code system.
Mm.
It's really a place to just like lose all faith in software engineering as a field. Like, so there's a lot of people who post on there like as students, or like, hey, I'm trying to I'm trying to grind leak code and get into a FANG company and make $500,000 in the next 3 years and then quit. Like, it's insane. So, I mean, I know these people are out there. Like, it happens. I don't know how you make it long term as just a 10% loss that we just eat as an industry. I don't know how that works.
Right.
But anyway.
Wouldn't like that seems a little crazy to me. Wouldn't you rather dedicate some of that energy to like doing your job rather than like gaming the leak code system and trying to figure out a way? Sometimes it reminds me of those like elaborate criminal schemes that are like, I don't know, they're kind of like small potatoes criminal schemes that are just like crazy elaborate, and it's like, you're obviously smart and you obviously spent a lot of time thinking about this. Like, it feels like you could have put some of that energy towards doing your job.
You could have just got a job. Yeah. I remember seeing an article years ago. It was like somebody did the math and like globally bank robbers make an average of like $50,000 a year or something like that.
Really?
Like when you account for like all the expenses, all the equipment, hiring people, like everything that they do, it's like, dude, you're risking, I don't know, 25 to life for $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize, there are people that are in economic situations where that might be appealing, but damn, yeah, please.
Yeah, for that
but
risk.
yeah, it does seem like a lot of work for. I don't know. I mean, some people just, I guess it just comes down to your values. Some people, they really just want to get the money and run.
Yeah.
Sad.
I just have trouble. I like finding meaning in work, I like feel like I'm feeling like I am contributing something and doing something important. When I don't feel that, I feel like it makes it hard to get out of bed, but
absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is about values. Maybe it's more like what drives people who are doing that kind of thing is not the same thing that's driving someone who wants to be good at their job, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, some people just try to find value in other things in life, and they try to just make work like something that delivers them a paycheck, and that's it.
Yeah. I just find that really hard because it's where we spend most of our time. You know what I mean? We spend so much of our time at work that that seems like the obvious place to find meaning, if at all possible.
I do feel, though, I mean, I've spent a lot of time at jobs where I'm like, man, this is like, I'm fixing another CSS bug in this dashboard. I'm not, there's a lot of times where I feel like my day-to-day isn't really making a difference. I wish it did more.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish mine did more also. I still think there's meaning in trying to find meaning in trying to do a good job. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah. There's a virtue in that in and of itself, I think.
In our Making Programming Fun episode, we kind of talked a little bit about that. Like, I don't know, we talked a little bit about trying to find meaning in what we're doing on the day-to-day. I think about that episode a lot. I think that was, if you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to that one. It's a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Touched on some of the stuff.
Do you have anything else to say about ghosts?
I don't think so. I'm skeptical of that number is the ultimate thing, but I know those people are out there. Maybe there's just more of them than I realize.
I think we should put them all in like one, not Uzbekistan, because I have respect for the people of Uzbekistan, but like some wasteland, maybe Kansas, we can put all of them into, and they can have a GDP of 0.
Yeah.
It'd be their own little country.
I think we should try to get a ghost dev interview. I think we should try to find a person who,
like in the anonymous interview.
Yeah, and we blur their face and like distort their voice and all that, like they're on the run from the mob, and they can come on and talk to us about what it's like to work 2 jobs.
That would be cool. Yeah, reach out to us if you're a ghost dev.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
Reach out to us if you're a ghost. Are there any voices in the room?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to whose side are you on? We have a special question today. We want to talk about just fun terms in software development, fun words, fun like phrases. This came about. Someone at work the other day was really infatuated with the term prettify or prettification. They thought that was really funny, and so I just kind of started thinking like, what are some of the other funny ones, right? So, Brendan, were you making a list earlier? Do you have a list?
I do. I have a list going on.
Let's go through let's get through the list.
So prettify, rubber ducking.
Yeah, classic.
Do we need to explain what some of these mean?
I guess, yeah, let's do it. So rubber ducking is just being when you're just like talking through the code as if you had a rubber duck with you. That comes from the Pragmatic Programmer, I think.
I think so. I think that's
One
right.
of those old books. So he recommended buying a duck and talking to your duck to talk through problems.
Have you tried some variation on that? Do you find it helpful to like talk out your program, your bugs out loud?
I do it in my head. I've definitely like walked through stuff in my head verbally, and it's helped me. And I mean, how many times have you had a problem and then you called somebody over to ask for help, and as you're explaining the problem, you figured out what it was?
Right.
That happens to me all the time.
I think that's the one. Yeah. Talking to someone as if they're like I said.
I do have a rubber duck.
USA.
In China.
Is it made in China?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's the one I find. Not any kind of inanimate object, but talking to someone and then realizing during talking it out that like, oh yeah, that's the solution, of course. Even if they didn't provide any information, they just acted as a sounding board, basically.
Yep. Rubber ducking.
Bike shedding.
Bike shedding, yeah.
So this is where you argue about I hope I have this right. You argue about the color of the bike shed rather than like anything that actually matters about building the bike shed, right? It's arguing about the superficial stuff without arguing about anything of substance about the project.
Right. Yeah. It's spending disproportionate time debating minor trivial details while more important matters get less attention. This is really easy to do. I think we've all done this to some extent.
Yeah, it's a really bad habit. I mean, I think this happens in all walks of life. Maybe programmers are uniquely susceptible to it for some reason, but like, I think this happens all the time. Especially, man, there's some quote out there that I can't remember, but it was a quote from like a congressman or something, and he was saying it's easier to get funding for like an enormous rocket project than it is to get some flowers planted on the front lawn or something, because like everyone has an opinion about the flowers, right? Nobody quite really understands the rocket. So it's like, I think programmers are often strong in their opinions, and I think everyone's got an opinion about something. And I think that leads to a lot of bike shedding.
Yeah, this is kind of the origin of the "Whose Side Are You On" segment. Maybe we should call it the bike shedding segment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It really is. I mean, we're arguing about color themes, tabs versus spaces, editors. It's like, have we shipped anything?
Yeah.
That's what we need to talk about.
Yep, that's exactly right. It is all just the superficial stuff. Grok.
Grok, yeah.
I think grok is an interesting. So grok means to understand something deeply, to like read about it and really internalize it and understand it, is my understanding. I gotta say, for a lot of years, I thought this meant the opposite. I thought it was more like, I thought to grok something meant to skim just on the surface, but it's actually to understand it deeply, right?
Yeah, I actually thought that until right now. I thought grokking was when you like I thought grokking was like kind of like what's the word, like ad hoc, like kind of throwing something together.
Understand something intuitively or by empathy.
Apparently, this comes from a Robert Heinlein book.
Oh, Stranger in a Strange Land. Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm
that
gonna give a
author's name.
hot take. I've read 2 Heinlein books, and I didn't like either one.
Was one of them Stranger in a Strange Land?
No,
Oh.
haven't read that one. I read Starship Troopers, and I read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Starship Troopers was the basis for the film?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was based on a book.
Yeah, no, that's the big thing. You see this on film Twitter a lot, how like the movie reworks a lot of the stuff and like recontextualizes it, where the novel is more just like they're just killing bugs, they're just killing alien bugs. Like that's kind of the story.
Yeah.
It's like very pro-military, and whereas like the movie kind of does it in sort of like a subversive way. The book is like not. It doesn't have any of that.
Right. The movie's kind of satire or parody, right?
Yeah, and the book just isn't.
So I don't know if I don't know if I'm explaining that exactly right. Understand something intuitively or by empathy. I'm not sure that, but when you grok something, it means that you have like read it enough, you've studied it enough and gone deeply enough on it that you understand it on a fairly deep level, right?
Yeah, I guess. Why is the tool called Grok? Isn't there a tool called Grok?
Yeah, it's a search tool, right?
Oh, it's a chatbot.
Oh.
There might be another one. Oh, this is like the Twitter X thing, chatbot, Grok.
So this is from Wikipedia. When you claim to grok some knowledge or technique, you are asserting that you have not merely learned it in a detached instrumental way, but that it has become part of you, part of your identity. For example, you may say you know Lisp is to simply assert that you can code in it if necessary, but to say you grok Lisp is to claim that you have deeply entered the worldview and spirit of the language, with the implication that it has transformed your view of programming.
That's real. That's a real thing. Like there's stuff that you know, and then there's stuff that like like you really fully understand.
100%. Yeah, I usually call that like internalizing. Like it just becomes it's like secondhand.
Yeah.
Okay. Smoke test.
Smoke testing. Yeah, yeah. So smoke testing is when you just like run the system or whatever it is, and you just see that it's not blowing up. It seems to be somewhat working.
Yeah. Just the absolute most basic, and it comes from designing circuits and electrical engineer, right? If you plug the board in and it starts smoking, then it's trash. It's time to start over.
Yeah. See if it starts smoking. That is something that they do. Like you see that in if you ever watch like YouTube like custom car builds and stuff, they'll do that where they're like, okay, time to start it up, and they see if like oil starts flying everywhere or what, it really is a smoke test.
Yeah. That I think it probably makes sense in a lot of different disciplines and fields and stuff. There's probably a point where you just have to like just the most basic. Does it pass or the smell test is almost maybe the same
Smell test, yeah.
kind of thing. Yak shaving.
Yak shaving, yeah. What does it mean? Getting caught in a seamlessly endless series of prerequisites before you can start your actual task. So what's an example of that?
This is like, well, I want to implement this feature, but my current version of PHP doesn't support it. So I got to upgrade PHP, but my current version of Ubuntu doesn't support this version of PHP. So I got to upgrade Ubuntu.
Okay.
And I got to, and so do you know that Malcolm in the Middle clip I'm talking about where the dad tries to change the light bulb and
Yeah.
it's like that.
That's the bit of the thing. Yeah, yeah. No, I do that all day. That's like half my job.
Yeah. I I think like a recent CS grad underestimates the amount of day-to-day time that's spent on yak shaving.
So where does that phrase come from? Why is it shaving a yak?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Does that is there something? Okay. Coined by Carlin Vieri in his time at the MIT AI lab after viewing a segment at the end of a 1991 episode of The Ren and Stimpy Show. The
Hmm.
segment featured Yak Shaving Day, a Christmas-like holiday where participants hang diapers instead of stockings, stuff rubber boots with coleslaw, and watch for the shaving yak to float by in his enchanted canoe. So what's the relationship? Uh, just because yak shaving seems pointless?
I think that's the idea, is that you're doing something that's doesn't seem to be at all related to the task that you actually want to do. That's my guess. That show was
Right.
wild.
Yeah, that show was wild. I wish I could have found the like the explanation really quickly, but let's move on.
Spaghetti code.
Yes, perfect.
Spaghetti code, I feel like, has kind of made it out of programming. I feel like almost like bug. We were talking about the term bug. That's kind of made it into the mainstream. I feel like most people. I feel like if I told my wife spaghetti code, she would know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Or you could say like this traffic was spaghetti or something, and people kind of intuitively know what that means.
Yeah. Code smells. This is probably my favorite one on the list, honestly. I love the term code
Okay.
smells.
Yeah.
Or a code stink.
Yeah, it's like there's something wrong. Well, so it's like, how would you define a code smell, really?
A code smell, I think of it as kind of an intuitive thing of like something is wrong here. Like I feel like a code smell is when everything starts to become really hard to do because of decisions that you made earlier, right? Something is wrong at the very low levels of this code. Like we made some kind of wrong architectural decision, some kind of wrong design decision, and now everything we try to do is hard. Something
Right.
smells bad with this code. Like it just doesn't feel right. It's kind of a gut thing.
Yeah. So a code smell would be like if I'm like doing a lot of like really intricate string manipulation before
Mm.
I'm matching something, right? I feel like that's a code spell I run into. It's like, well, I shouldn't have to do that before I compare these things. Like they should just sync up, or the database should just be normalized or something.
Yeah. That feeling that like there's a better way to do what I'm trying to do here.
Mm.
Shotgun debugging. I hadn't heard this until we did prep for this episode.
Yeah, we just learned about this. So I have it pull up here. A process of making relatively undirected changes to software in the hope that a bug will be perturbed out of existence. So I think that probably the most common example of this is when you try to just run it again, or just restart the system, or try to just update, uh, run updates on stuff, just see what happens.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong. We're just going to try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I've been there.
Deep magic.
Deep magic, yeah, or magic, just magic itself. In the context of computer programming, magic is an informal term for abstraction. It is used to describe code that handles complex tasks while hiding that complexity to present a simple interface.
That's kind of an interesting term because I have negative associations with the term magic in programming. Like if someone is
Yeah,
doing something that's magic, that's not a good thing. That means that they're doing something behind the scenes that is probably hiding some complexity. And the thing is, like, if it works, it's great, but if something goes wrong and you have to dig into it, then it's going to be a real pain in the ass.
yeah. I think generally people use it in a negative way, but I think we all use a little bit of magic, whether we really want to or not, whether we like it or not. Like Like my operating system is basically magic, right? For
Mhm.
most of what it's doing. I understand the stuff that's important to me, but there's a lot of magic going on there.
So you think anything? Hmm. Is it
I mean,
anything?
based on this description, right? It says magic is an informal term for abstraction.
Yeah.
So I mean, abstraction itself isn't a bad thing, but it can be.
Right.
Or
Over
black box. Ooh, that's a good. I guess that's not really software specific, but black box and white box. I like those terms.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are really not software specific, but um, that's true. We didn't talk about those. Black box. Yeah. Those are good. Heisenbug. So
Yeah, yeah. What is that one again?
this is a bug that like seems to come and go. It seems to like manifest in different ways every time you try to look at it. It might be like when you try to debug it and you try to look at it closely, it's hard to find maybe, or it manifests differently or something. It's often like a race condition or something that when you move through the code slowly, it's hard to identify it that way. It only happens in certain situations and you can't really figure out why. So
Yeah, these are the absolute best bugs to try to figure out.
yeah.
So it's named after Heisenberg, the physicist who first asserted the observer effect of quantum mechanics.
Right. Yeah, so it's like a Schrodinger's cat kind of bug.
Yeah, on the wiki page, it also mentioned sometimes referred to as a Schrodin bug.
Schrodin bug.
Or a Bower bug, or a Mandel bug.
Oh,
I guess those are other physicists. I don't know.
Niels Bohr and what was the other one?
Bohr, yeah. Mandel.
Mandel.
Mandel. Named after Benoit Mandelbrot.
Oh, the Mandelbrot set.
I guess. I'm not smart enough. Anything else?
Snake case, camel case.
Yeah, those are fun.
Those are fun. I think that's some of the first ones you learn that are kind of in this category of like fun terms, like snake
Isn't there
case.
another one? What do they call it when it's like a shish kebab, where it's like hyphens?
Oh yeah, you're right. Kebab case.
Kebab case, yeah, I like that.
And for the first time when we were looking at this, I heard screaming snake case, which is all caps with underscores. I don't know. Yeah, those are fun. I remember learning those terms, and that felt like one of the first things I learned that was kind of that and spaghetti code that felt kind of like, ooh, cool jargon. I'm in the know now.
Yeah.
That's all I had on my list, though.
I'm trying to look up what's the word for a word that puts you in the know. I just learned this recently.
A word that puts you in the know.
Yeah, like it's a word that people use to like exclude the out group. Like I'm gonna ask Collaborate real quick.
Shibboleth?
Yeah, that's it. Shibboleth. I like that word. I just
That's
like
a
the way it
real good one.
sounds.
Yeah. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not sure I've ever heard it pronounced.
Yeah, it's Hebrew. It sounds like a H.P. Lovecraft thing or something. Shibboleth. It's like, damn.
It absolutely does. That's funny.
Anyway, there's technical debt.
Oh yeah.
That's one you almost don't even think about. That's a fun one.
Technical debt is, I feel like technical debt's interesting because I think that's a really hard one to define. I feel like in my programming career, it took me a long time to really get a grasp on like what that even was. How do you, it's almost like when you're starting programming, if the program works, it works. It's only when you see your code in the context of these bigger systems that's like, oh, now that code I write is going to be really hard to maintain later.
Yeah, it can mean different things in different contexts, but Yeah, I feel like it's something that you kind of develop like this sixth sense for thinking about, and
Mhm.
it's something that like, yeah, when you're more junior, you don't think about it, right? You think, oh, this package does this, let's introduce it, and you don't realize like, oh, well, I'm gonna have to maintain everything that I introduce.
Yep.
Another one I came across was cargo cult programming. Are you familiar with the concept of cargo cults?
No.
Uh, so it's pretty dark, actually. It it refers to like um, this thing that would really happen. I think around like the like World War II or something, where like um, Navy men would like they would stop by like small islands and they would have run-ins with like the natives that weren't really like living in like modern society, and they would like give them a bunch of stuff, and then what forms is what they would call a cargo cult, where basically the native people would almost like worship these people as gods. Like
Hmm.
they developed this like almost religion around these people. There's one like really famous case. Um, Let me see. If I'm just gonna find the Wikipedia page. Cargo cults were diverse spiritual and political movements that arose among indigenous Melanesians following Western colonization of the region in the late 19th century. Most cargo cult groups were led by charismatic prophet figures foretelling an imminent cataclysm and or a coming utopia for followers, a worldview known as millenarianism. Um, yeah, there's like one really famous occurrence.
These are
Um,
the Navy dudes are coming and to the island and preaching like kind of end of the world message.
See, I don't. This seems to be like different from what I was thinking when I described it. I didn't know there were profits involved at all. Let me see if I can't just find. Okay, let's read this. Okay, the most widely known period of cargo cult activity occurred among the Melanesian islanders in the years during and after World War II. A small population of indigenous peoples observed after directly in front often directly in front of their dwellings, the largest war ever fought by technologically advanced nations. Japanese forces used their foreknowledge of local cargo cult beliefs, intentionally misrepresenting themselves as the ancestors of the Melanesians and distributing goods freely in order to acquire compliance and labor. Later, the Allied forces arrived in the islands and did this as well. So I think what it is it's kind of similar to like the conquistadors when they first came to like the Americas, how they would like uh, try to present themselves as being like superior beings or something.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, that
um,
is dark.
the vast amount of military equipment and supplies that both sides airdropped to troops on these islands meant drastic changes on the lives of these people. Blah blah. Okay, I think this is the one I was thinking of. In the 1930s, the John Frum movement emerged on Pana in Vanuatu. This tradition urged islanders to resume dancing and kava drinking and to maintain historic traditions. The movement predicted American assistance, which, as foretold, arrived in 1942. The movement rituals were influenced by Christianity and also included similar elements to other cargo cults like marching and drilling, flags and poles, and flowers. The John Frum movement has come to be described as the archetypal cargo cult. Uh, anyway, cargo cult programming is a really weird phrase, honestly, because it's more just cult programming in general is what I think of it is, right? It's just we think this is the right way to do this. We think that there's only one way to do this, so we do it, whether it makes sense to or not, right? I think cargo cult programming happens in like with like object oriented versus functional programming. You know, you've got cults around either of those.
Yeah. Or yeah, like adopting a framework. You don't evaluate like whether it's good for this use case. It's just like maybe it's the hot
Yeah,
new
it's
thing.
just
So
the way you
you,
do it.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've heard that term. I never quite really knew what that meant, to be honest.
Okay. Actually, the cargo cult programming section really describes it well. Cargo cults are millenarian movements that arose in Melanesia under colonial rule and inspired Richard Feynman to coin the expression cargo cult science. In Feynman's description, after the end of the Second World War, practitioners believed that air delivery of cargo would resume if they carried out the proper rituals, such as building runways, lighting fires next to them, and wearing headphones carved from wood while sitting in fabricated control towers. The form is perfect. It looks exactly the way it looked before, but it doesn't work. So, like, I guess what it really refers to is like these people, they experienced these things and they knew that there was a relationship between these things and getting stuff delivered to them. So but they didn't understand what that relationship is.
Gotcha.
The term then became used more widely as a metaphor for empty rituals.
Oh, okay.
There we go. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
I think this might be my favorite one.
Cargo cult.
Yeah, cargo cult programming. It's just interesting and it's so poignant. You see this a lot, This is a real problem.
Right. That immediately feels relatable. Like, oh, yeah, we've been there. We've done that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to say that I do have a least favorite, which is just really just the least favorite phrase, which is automagically. I just hate when people say that. I hate when people say automagically.
That's pretty bad. Yeah. Automagically. How often do you hear that? Do you have someone at work that says it a lot?
No, I feel like there was like a period of time where I was seeing it all the time, like in blogs and stuff. And it has been a while since I've seen it actually, but that just always annoyed me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm with you. That's not a great one. I'm trying to remember if I'm ever guilty of saying it. Probably said it at some point.
The thing is, I feel like you can almost just say it back on accident, because it's so similar to automatically.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's it, or at least that's all the words and phrases we could come up with right now.
I feel like this could be a recurring thing because there's got to be lots more out there. If you're listening to this and you got some cool phrases that we need to dive into, give us your jargon.
Polymorphism.
But that's like that is jargony, but that feels like technical and actually describing
that's like a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a shibboleth. It's just like that's what it's called.
Right. Something like abstract base class. It's like that's just a technical term to describe a concept. It's not like I'm trying to think of the difference there and I can't really come up with it. But
no, I feel I grok the difference. All right. Well, that's it. Ghosts. There you have it. They walk among us.
Ghosts are real. Unfortunate.
The Ghost Dev podcast.
Ghost Dev Revolution.
I'm 0.1x developer.
I am serious about that. If there are any Ghost devs listening to this and you want to come on the podcast, reach out. I would love to talk to someone about what the experience of being a Ghost dev in real life.
I just want to know what your day-to-day is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
See you guys next time.
1x Developer Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Colin. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of the 1x Developer Podcast and let you know that if you have any questions, comments, or if you just want to tell us about your day, you can reach us at X, formerly known as Twitter, at 1x Developer Podcast. We're also on YouTube at 1x Developer Podcast. You can email us if you're weird at 1xdeveloperpodcast@protonmail.com. And lastly, don't forget to follow, subscribe, all that stuff, so you don't miss any further episodes of the 1x Developer Podcast. Thanks so much. See you next time.